There's been a flaw in every single GoPro camera since generation 1. It's a flaw that the company hasn't figured out. It's a flaw that we as consumers ignore every single time we convince ourselves to buy one of their products. It's the reason why you may have a GoPro and it's probably shelved in a drawer somewhere. If you had invested $100 in GoPro when it went public in 2014, you would have tripled that investment a year later. But today, you'd be left with just about 3 cents, even if their revenue has held quite steady through all this time. You might think the culprit is recent product hiccups.
Holy shit, there's a battery right there. That's 131.
Or competition from new brands.
No other company in the action camera space has these issues.
That's only half the answer. There is a deeper flaw in their product that dates back long before they had any competition at all. I caught wind of this around 2014 because Tim, a good friend of mine, was running a video editing startup called Fly Labs, and they were in talks with GoPro about an acquisition. To give you some very quick context, 2014 GoPro was killing it. From his love of surfing, Nick Woodman started this company in 2002, named after his wish to go pro in surfing. Now, the first version used good old 35mm film because in 2004, you wouldn't put your $500 Cybershot in the water in a case that some surf pro made. Now, the first camera made $150,000 in sales and paved the way for their 2006 Digital Hero, which could shoot, wait for it, 10-second videos, 240p with no audio. But every year, GoPro got better and better, and it became the undisputed standard for action cameras.
For the first time, the world has been able to capture and share its passions like never before.
You can see that I've got the GoPro camera still attached to it.
The most powerful way to capture and share this incredible experience.
My first GoPro was the Hero 3, the 2012 version. Actually, let's see if it works. Okay, so this is a Hero 3 Silver. Their market was so huge at the time that they could launch 5 different models of the same camera and they'd still have a market for it. Now, the black version shot 4K video at 15 FPS and 1080p video at 60 FPS. Now, compare that to that year's iPhone that was still stuck at 1080p, 30 FPS. This was a fair choice, and the iPhone wouldn't catch up for another 2 years. They had annual launch events just like Apple, and they would do these epic announcement videos, and they didn't even have to spend money on these ads. They encouraged the community to submit their own footage to maybe be featured in the GoPro ad. My submissions never got picked. But this was some epic on-scene footage. Skating, surfing, diving, tied to an eagle, footage that you wouldn't dream of shooting, all thanks to this practically indestructible, waterproof, tiny camera. Like the iPhone, GoPro also benefited from the 2010s, which was this crazy time in technology where we get new updates and new features every year. Very different from, today.
We released the new iPhone 16! You can make your own emojis now.
GoPro was the very definition of a product that marketed itself, and we all fell for it. And I'm not saying that we fell for it as a scam. I bought my first GoPro with the very intention of going cliff diving or finally getting a good selfie on my surfboard. Just seeing my Hero 3 still makes me a bit nostalgic about my 20s. I even got the Wi-Fi remote. I'll bring it. I even got the Wi-Fi remote control thingy and all of the accessories. Anyway, in February 2014, they IPO'd at $24 a share, and 6 months later, they peaked at $82 a share, which valued the entire company at $11 billion. And just like with tech startups, this massive valuation was based on the company's potential. They had healthy profit margins, but most crucially, they were growing, which is not always easy, especially with how hard it is to raise funding. But our sponsor today can help you build a profitable and sustainable brand precisely with funding. Clearco provides e-commerce brands with working capital for invoices and receipts to fund inventory, marketing, shipping, logistics, and more. The challenge for companies like GoPro is that they need to front their inventory costs and manufacturing, which will sell eventually, but that capital dip can be devastating for a business, or can slow down growth if you don't have the flexibility to buy more inventory. Recently, their customers Cecil and Lou drove 25% growth in new revenue by Clearco funding their in-stock inventory, which accounts for 60% of their 2024 revenue. Clearco works with e-commerce stores from Amazon to Shopify to BigCommerce. It's simple, no collateral, no dilutive, capped weekly payments, and no personal guarantees, just the working capital you need to fuel your growth. Non-dilutive means that you really don't need to shed any equity. Also, no personal guarantees are needed, so you're never personally liable for the capital that your business needs. You can go to clear.co, that's CLEAR.co, to sign up and see what funding your business qualifies for. Links in the show notes. Back to my friends at Fly Labs, they had developed a pretty clever video editing user experience where you tapped each video stream to just edit the final cut. And GoPro was desperate for exactly that, providing their users with something better than Windows Movie Maker to edit their footage. And they didn't end up buying Fly Labs, but they acquired Splice and Replay, and they packaged both of these companies into Quick, their mobile video editing app, which they launched in 2016.
In just seconds, Quick analyzes your footage to find great moments, adds beautiful transitions and effects, and syncs everything to the beat of the music.
Quick was supposed to be the solution to help people edit GoPro footage, and they had some automatic editing stuff in there that people liked. It wasn't quite AI though. So I found the non-AI Quick app just cumbersome and not as flexible as what I wanted to do in, say, iMovie. But that was another problem. Knowing how to use editing software, I felt my hands were tied with Quick, and so this loophole emerges. I don't use Quick because I could just do these edits better on my laptop, but that takes time, so I don't edit at all, and then we're back in square one with hours and hours of useless footage. And you needed to create an account, which some people didn't love, especially if it logged out in the middle of your extreme sport. But something else happened that year that would mark the beginning of the end. A new gadget to shoot action videos was becoming popular, maybe too popular. Just like GoPro made underwater or action photography mainstream, the Phantom series made drones mainstream. DJI, of course, is a Chinese company. They had to overcome cultural and regulatory barriers to enter the Western markets, but they aced it. This was very much GoPro's turf, so much so that DJI actually used GoPro cameras for their first generation Phantom drones. Even though DJI is a private company, there was probably a moment in time when these companies had a very similar market cap / valuation. So I'm sure there was a lot of pressure from their now very invested shareholders to play catch up to DJI. And that gave us
Karma! Karma is so much more than a drone!
That's the GoPro Karma in flight right there. We're gonna put it through some real tests now.
Exactly a week later though, DJI introduced the Mavic Pro. Similar pricing, foldable drone, similar features, and this could have been a tight race, except for the fact that the Karma was a catastrophe.
If you just want the freaking GoPro, yeah, just buy the GoPro, but don't spend the extra money on the drone. Don't buy it, guys, don't buy it.
The drone market wasn't competitive. It was just absolutely dominated by DJI. GoPro announced that they would discontinue drones only a couple of years after that fiasco, but GoPro's Chinese nightmares were not over. DJI had two massive advantages against GoPro. First of all, DJI had started with professional drones. They were literally building drones that Hollywood was using to shoot movies. And then they were just making cheaper, dialed-down versions of that technology for hobbyists. This is exactly the opposite of GoPro's approach. Second is Shanzai. In its original translation, Shanzai refers to counterfeit or knockoff products, the kind we're used to seeing coming from China. Over time though, the term has evolved to refer to this idea of rapid imitation or creative copying, which is a staple in Chinese manufacturing. And the best example of Shanzai for DJI is this. This is a 249 gram drone. As countries around the world started cracking down on drone hobbyists that, granted, were doing irresponsible shit, everybody followed the FAA guidance to ban drones above 250 grams, because any drone smaller than 250 grams would be just a harmless toy, right?
Challenge accepted.
By the way, I recently made a video with The Hustle exactly on how Shanzai culture created this vaping epidemic in the US, if you want to check that out. DJI wouldn't take long to do the same thing to action cameras. Their first tease at this was the Osmo, and you couldn't throw an Osmo in the water, but it made for some silky smooth footage thanks to a physical gimbal. And then compared side by side, Osmo was clearly taking a stab at the then current GoPro Hero 4. Also, just like with early GoPro products, end users that didn't really need an Osmo ended up buying one. But making videos of you chasing your dog didn't make you feel like you were wasting this product's potential. So GoPro eventually launched Hypersmooth, which once again convinced me to spend $400 on a device that I didn't actually need. And then finally, the Osmo quickly evolved into the Osmo Action, which was the final blow to the company. GoPro's fatal flaw is simple. Who wants a GoPro versus who needs a GoPro? I watched the GoPro Hero 13 launch video as I'm writing this video, and I almost couldn't help myself again. It's so damn cool. Like, imagine what I could do if I had one. Imagine what I could be if I had a new GoPro. And this has been GoPro's selling point since the beginning. It's probably one of the most aspirational products ever, and they know it. Everyone could be a customer of GoPro. I'm sure 90% of people who bought a GoPro felt like I did, excited about what they're gonna do, until reality kicks in.
Nothing incredible, pretty bad when it comes to the low light. It doesn't look great at all.
Your first GoPro reveals to most people that they're not as cool as they thought, that their pool dives aren't extreme sports, and it most definitely revealed to us that we don't need a new GoPro every year.
That is what GoPro is all about.
But this is the stuff that everyone captures on GoPro. Hundreds of hours of crappy footage doing not so extreme sports with no amateur tools or time to edit them. It's footage that very few people have the skill, the time, the willingness to rewatch, cut, edit, and do anything with it except for storing it in a hard drive somewhere. So if the final photo is just gonna live in an Instagram story for about 2 seconds, just use your phone for that, which is waterproof now, by the way. Wait, but we still have professional uses, right?
GoPro at speed. Here we go. Everyone ready?
GoPro cameras let people feel immersed within a tornado.
It's really fun to watch. The GoPro footage.
Aside from like 5 shots that were intentionally made to look amateur, a GoPro is clearly not built for film. And that's not the pro use that they've ever targeted. But as a professional, I know that our cinematography would kill me for saying that I'm a professional, but I mean, it pays at least some of my bills. But let's say that we, YouTube creators, are semi-professional videographers. GoPro is designed for us, right? Well, how much of the content you see on YouTube is shot on GoPro? What percentage of a travel video is shot on a GoPro? 10%? 5%? What percentage of shorts or TikToks?
But we bring our GoPro on every trip, but it's not great. Like, it wouldn't make for a great YouTube video just on GoPro. But this GoPro has been with us to India, to Bitcoin City, to deep Texas, and just count how many shots from this GoPro made it to the final cut of those videos.
Some use cases still apply. I'm sure Mr. Beast probably has a few hundred GoPros and he needs them to make this stuff happen. But even for those use cases, GoPro has been suffering. And if you suddenly lose your footage because your GoPro overheated, then how pro is that use case really?
I'm officially over GoPro.
GoPro just overheated after like a minute and a half of being on.
I got the screen of death.
These things are just bad. They constantly freeze, constantly lose footage.
And that's how we get to where we are now. Declining reviews, shrinking sales, terrible stock performance, and negative margins. GoPro has a real place in my heart. This is a company that revolutionized action photography, but their true use case was much more niche than we all thought. Aside from pro athletes and Red Bull ads, who really needs a GoPro? Now we have waterproof, ultra-wide cameras in our pockets, in our phones, and incredible breakthroughs in making that footage easier to edit, I guess in part thanks to TikTok. And add to that they dropped the ball on product quality for this semi-professional use, then who is left as GoPro's customer? And finally, add competition. Their small market quite literally got eaten away. And I think that that's really sad. Now, as deadly as some of the stunts that people on GoPros might be doing, the founder is safe and sound. Unlike the founders of the companies we selected last week that actually died by their own inventions. You should check that video out. We'll see you in the next one.